To get started with rendering, let's start off by looking at the user interface. First thing we'll look at is the display modes down at the bottom of the modeling window. By clicking on the display modes icon, you'll see options for performance render and also quality render. Performance rendering offers nearly real-time rendering speed with a slightly reduced quality in some cases. This is a great option for keeping visualization fast and interactive, especially when you're rendering animations or working with large, complex models. If your goal is the highest quality visualization and capturing lighting and materials accurately, then using quality rendering will be your best option. In some cases, it may be a little slower and less performant, but the quality will be much higher. Now let's look at the rendering environment and tools. Clicking on the Rendering tab in the ribbon will display the rendering environment. In the ribbon, you will also find Tools, and to the right is the library of materials and environments. At the top of the library panel, there's also an option to check for updates. So if there's any additional updated materials and environments available, you can quickly download directly from here and have the full library of updated materials and environments. By clicking on the editor's icon, you will see the option for editing materials, environments, lights, labels, cameras, and also the settings for the performance and quality rendering engines. We can start by adding some materials to our model. To select a material, you can scroll through the list of materials, or you can select directly on any of the categories for the different materials. At the bottom of the library panel, you can also increase or decrease the size of the material previews by dragging the slider back and forth. This can be helpful if you want to get a better view of what the material looks like, or if you want to see more materials at once. Let's click on the metals category and apply an anodized gold material. One way to add materials or apply materials is just to drag and drop directly onto a part. If you have multiple parts that you want to apply the same material, you can hold the Control key and select all the parts and either drag and drop the material onto the parts, or you can simply double click on the material and it'll apply the material directly to the selected parts. You can also create a material from scratch by selecting a part, and in the material editor, start by selecting one of the material types. Then you can adjust the parameters to achieve the desired look you want. You can change the color, reflectivity, roughness, etc. Another option is to assign a material that you have previously used in this model. You can simply select the part you want to add a material to, right-click, and mouse over the Assign a Material option to see the list of materials in your scene. Then just select the material you want to assign. You can use the same method here. I will select these two parts, right-click, and select the plastic material. Now let's find a material for the handle that has some texture on it from the molded plastics category. I will select all three of these parts. Since the icons for the materials are small, I will increase the size to better see the detail. And in this case, I want to change the size of the texture to be smaller. To edit the texture, we will use the material editor. In the bump category, we can click on the menu next to the texture, select texture positioning, and then either increase or decrease the size of the texture by either typing in the values or clicking and dragging on the value itself. You can also increase or decrease the strength of the bump effect, again by typing in the value or clicking and dragging. All materials can be modified, even the default material from the library as we have just seen. So let's go back and change the color of the gold anodized material. Let's also modify the reflectivity and roughness. We can also add different effects like scratches or brushed finishes or coatings. Let's add a brushed finish. To do so, just check the box next to brushed, and by default, there is a texture assigned. To choose a different texture, just click on the texture preview. You can choose one of the textures in the library, or click on the Browse button at the top if you want to use a texture that you may have saved in another location on your computer. To make the effect more subtle, we will decrease the strength. Again, we can also decrease the size of the texture by clicking on the menu and clicking on the texture position option to adjust it. If you created or modified one of the default materials and want to save it to use in the future, just click on the Save to Library button at the bottom of the material editor. You can then choose a custom category and name for the material and click OK. This material will be saved in your user library. You can also apply labels or logos to your model. To do so, in the editor panel, click on the label icon. Then select the part you would like to apply a label to. Now click on the Add Image icon in the editor to browse to the image you want to use. Once you choose the image, it will follow your mouse cursor on the model so you can move the image into position and click it to set it. The texture position panel will also automatically open to edit the size, rotation, aspect ratio, etc. Just a quick tip in case you want to use the same color in multiple materials. While in the color selection menu, you can drag the current color to the pick palette to use later instead of having to input the numerical values. Then, when you are editing the color of a material, you can just select the color from the saved pick palette. There is a set environment applied by default that provides lighting, reflections, and a background. To edit or change the environment, just click on the environment icon in the editor panel. You can change things like the rotation, and we'll see that the lighting and the reflections will update in real time. You can also increase or decrease the intensity of the lighting. Or you can choose a completely different environment. In the library to the right, just click on the Environment tab to see all the environments in the library. Now you can just simply drag and drop any of these environments directly into your scene. If you like the lighting but want to change the background, then you have the option to create a custom background by checking the Custom Background option. By default, it will be a solid white background. but you can click on the color preview and change it to any color. Or you have the option to choose an image for the background. And again, you can just use the default, or you can browse to any other image you prefer. And just like with materials, if you have a custom environment that you like and you want to use later, you can just select on the Save Environment and Lighting button, and it will be saved into your library for you. You can also add environment lights and physical lights to better illuminate your scene. To do so, just click on the Light tab in the Editor panel. Now we will expand the Environment Lights option, select Add a Light, and a new light will automatically be placed at the center of your scene. Environment lights are global light sources that you can move around globally. If you open up the lighting properties, you can change the color of the light, its intensity, and its size. You can also add physical lights by clicking on Add a Physical Light. These lights are based on physical parameters and can be repositioned directly in your scene. You can change the properties of these lights, such as the unit output and the physical power. You can also change the color and size of the light. You also have the option to turn the lights on or off and/or hide the lights in the scene. So if you do not want to see the light icon in the interactive window, but still want the light to illuminate the scene, you can click on the Show Hide option and it will disappear, but the light will still be active. Clicking on the camera settings, you can change the resolution of the final rendered image, which is represented here by these dotted lines. So anything outside of the dotted lines, you will know will not be captured in the final rendering. You can choose one of the preset resolutions, or you can choose custom and can set it to exactly the resolution you want to use. There are options to set focal length, edit the exposure, and add depth of field. There are also options for editing tone mapping and special effects. Clicking on the Settings tab in the Editor panel, you will find options for the denoiser, which is on by default and used in the quality rendering mode. There are also options for tracing depth and the maximum number of samples to be used for quality rendering. When you are ready to render the final image, just click on the Render tool in the ribbon. This will bring up the same settings panel for your rendering options. You can choose whether you want to use the quality or performance rendering engine or shaded or wireframe for your final image. For this case, we will select the quality engine. Once you set the parameters you want, you can simply select the render button. This will bring up a separate rendering window. At the bottom of the window will show you how many iterations remain to complete the rendering and also when it is finished. To save the rendering, select on the Save Image icon, name it, browse to the location you wish to save it to, and click Save.